Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Based on Actually Events podcast, a podcast where we talk about film, movies, and cinema. This is actually Ben, and I love movies. So, welcome everyone to episode 1 of Based on Actual Events. So, this is one of my New Year's resolutions. As you know, 2020 just rolled around. New decade, new year, new decade, new you, as you know. Everyone's out there making new resolutions, and one of mine was to make some kind of podcast or outlet where I can talk about film and movies, which is something that I passionately love, a career that I want to pursue, and something that just makes me happy. So this is one way I want to express that and get out there and maybe show some work that I've done about talking about movies. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this at the end, so stick around if you want to learn more about this podcast and what it's going to be and my plans for it coming up. But as for right now, I got some talking points that I want to get through, and I'll explain a little bit about how this podcast is going to work. So, how it works is every month I will, have some talking points about film, if it's relevant right now in the industry, with current movies coming out or anything happening or any changes the film industry is going through and my perspective on that. But I also like to look at some retrospective things, maybe talk about, film schools, different directors, filmmakers from the past, different movies, different eras of movies. Maybe on one episode focus half of it maybe on the compositions of movies, musical scores, editing, talk about movie controversies, movie conspiracies too. Just have fun of it and talk about it. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of the future of what I want to do with this. But as of right now, there's some talking points that I want to get through. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. So first of all, I hope everyone's doing great. So as I upload this, the Golden Globes were last night, or if I upload this a little bit late, 2 nights ago. So yeah, we're gonna just talk. I want to talk a little bit about that and my thoughts on the Golden Globes. So I guess the first thing I want to get out there is that I'm not a huge fan of the Golden Globes. I like it. It's an award show. I lean more towards Oscars. The Golden Globes and Oscars are the only two award shows that I watch. I don't really watch People's Choice Award or Emmys. Emmys for the sole reason is I do watch TV, but I don't watch enough current TV to really be an expert in that field where I'd enjoy what it is, because I feel like the most enjoyment you have out of an award show is a show or whatever that wins and you like that show. And to me, I only watch enough TV where I would only know maybe 1 or 2 nominations per category, because I don't really watch too much modern TV currently, and when I do, it's very cherry picked, because there's a lot of TV out there right now with all the Netflix originals, Amazon, Netflix original, Amazon, HBO, everything like that. So that's another topic for another time. We'll talk about TV shows and that later. But so I don't really watch the Emmys. People's Choice, I just never got into it. So I watched the Golden Globes, and Golden Globes of course has TV movies, and films, and I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm not particularly into it as much as the Oscars, as the Oscars is right on film. The Golden Globes has categories like best. Sorry, let me just pull this up here. Some of the categories for Golden Globes. So like best performance by an actor in a motion picture, which is good. That's fine, but there's best performance by an actress in a limited series motion picture or a motion picture made by television, or same with best performance by an actor in a limited series or motion picture or television. I guess to me it feels like it can drag on a little bit, and they have all these very specific categories like best motion picture, musical or comedy, best motion picture, drama, best motion picture. Um, yeah, so they have a best motion picture drama, and then they have a best motion picture musical and comedy, which I guess that's also another thing that I'm not really particularly a fan of is that they do this hard split where it's drama and comedy or musical, which there's not really too many musicals on this list, other than well, Cats isn't on this list for nominations for obviously reasons. But Cats is I can think of the only major musical that came out this year, um, other than maybe Frozen, but that would be animated. Um, so I like the Oscars because it has the best motion picture overall in a grand scope of like not really taking genre into account, but just having the best picture um, overall, which is something that I like because it kind of gets rid of this whole genre of splitting it hard musical or comedy. Because Once Upon a Time won best motion picture for musical or comedy, and it kind of like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is probably one of my favorite films of 2019. I've seen it 6 times in theaters, once at home, and though it is a very comedic movie and has very comedic aspects of it, as a Tarantino film does, and has tongue in cheek moments. In moments, it is very serious and tense and real and has emotion to it. And when personally think comedy, and not saying comedies can't have that emotional drive and dig, because a lot of comedies do. I guess when I think comedy, I think more. I guess maybe I'm still stuck in the ways of comedy. Reminds me of like Step Brothers and all the Will Ferrell and Seth Rogen, and like I would count. I would say like Long Shot is a comedy. Once Upon a Time is more of a like coming of age comedic like adventure. I don't know. Maybe I may not be making any sense here, but if you understand what I'm trying to say is I don't like it's just comedy and just drama when a lot of these movies can kind of be both. Because like Rocket Man is under a comedy, which is the life story of Elton John. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I haven't seen the movie, but it's Elton John's life. I wouldn't suggest it be more of a comedy than it's more of a biopic. Jojo Rabbit is a comedy, which again has comedic elements and is very funny, but is also a movie that has heart and dramatic emotion in it too. That I would watch it and I wouldn't say, "Oh, haha, that was a great comedy." I was laughing the whole time. I thought there was comedic elements in it, just like very serious movies can have comedic elements in it, and very comedic movies can have serious elements in it either. It's interchangeable, but it feels like just to categorize Jojo Rabbit as a comedy or Once Upon a Time as a comedy and it won, or musical or comedy or whatever. I just don't like pinning a genre to it. I guess maybe I'm weird by that, but it feels weird that they don't just do a best motion picture overall. Speaking of best motion picture drama, that won, the nominations for that was 1917, The Irishman, Joker, Marriage Story, and The Two Popes. I've seen all those movies except for 1917 and Two Popes. The Two Popes currently is on Netflix. That's probably one of the movies I should watch next. 1917 I haven't seen because it has a limited release in Canada. I don't know about the United States, but it wasn't playing in I wasn't playing in my local theater, and then when I moved back into college, it wasn't playing at the theater around me. or any theater around in in Toronto. So yeah, I mean it is playing in Toronto. I think at a cinema, but it's finding the time and going, and it's not like at every single cinema yet. So it's just a matter of making my way down there. So I didn't get a chance to see it before the Golden Globes, but from what I hear of it having a single shot, if it's anything similar to like how Birdman did their editing and their cinematography, I'm sure it's amazing. I'm really excited to see how they do a one shot war movie because Birdman was good because it kind of takes place in one area of that Broadway. Sorry, it takes place in that one Broadway theater. That's what I was trying to say there. Broadway theater, and as it's going in and out of hallways, and stuff happens, and there's a lot of intricate detail and choreography going into that. But I couldn't imagine the how 1917 is going to look. And the one other thing that's going to be interesting about that movie is, I haven't seen it, but I want to know how the timing is, because obviously in movies you're not seeing things in real time. But if everything's one shot, then real time basically becomes a thing that every second spent in the theater is spent in the movie because you're seeing it happen all in one shot. So I don't know how they're going to do that by if the soldiers are 6 hours away from something, or I don't know really. I know they're trying to get somewhere. I don't know how far it is. If it's 6 hours away from something, then it would take 6 hours real time to get there to watch them do that all in one shot. So I wonder how they're going to cut time down. So I'm excited to see that. From what I hear, it's amazing, and it definitely deserved to win Best Motion Picture Drama, because of, I would say, that choreography and stuff like that. And I say it deserves to win. Again, I haven't seen the movie, but it was up against some tough competition. I haven't seen Two Popes. The Irishman was great. Don't get me wrong. It's an amazing dramatic drama. I definitely recommend it if you like Goodfellas or anything that Martin Scorsese touches. But it is also like it is a Martin Scorsese movie that is long, and you can get lost in some of the detail too in that movie. So though it is a fantastic movie, I'm sure they had a good reason to pick 1917. Joker, phenomenal. I know the critics gave it a harsh time. I'm not really sure why. It's a brilliant movie. And Marriage Story, just watched that one recently. That one's a tough one, man, to get through. It's sad. But it's also very real, and they capture that very, very well. So, props to them. So, I guess that's my take on the Best Motion Picture. I'm not going to go through all of these. Once Upon a Time in Hood won Best Musical or Comedy. I'm glad it won something for Best. I think that's a great movie. And I guess I'll explain a little bit why I think this is a great movie real quick. Because I know I've talked to some people that I know that aren't too much of a fan of that movie because of the lack of this is spoiler alerts for, I guess, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you haven't seen the movie yet, go and watch it. First of all, it's amazing. It's almost 3 hours long, but in my opinion, you won't regret it. I saw the movie 6 times. So I guess bias warning. I'm a big Tarantino fan. I love all of his works, even Death Proof. I've only seen Death Proof once. It's okay. It's alright. I liked it. It's not his best, as we know. But I love Tarantino's work. I love his style. I guess I specifically love how each film, though somehow keeping the same style and same vibe, it always feels different. It feels like different pieces of art from the same artists that are all very vibrant and all very different. So I like that. I think I made a quote a while ago when I was doing a presentation in high school about Quentin Tarantino, and we learned in this film class in high school that said something like, "If films were books, directors are the authors." And then when we were doing this presentation, I wrote, "If films are books, then Quentin Tarantino's movies are graphic novels." And I think that that still holds true because they're very vibrant. They're very like the characters are very like um, I don't know how to explain it. The characters are very exaggerated, but not to the point where it's too wacky or unpredictable. It's and I watched this video recently about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that when you watch a Quentin Tarantino movie, you're not supposed to take them legitimate. You're not supposed to take it at face value. You're watching Tarantino's take on a bank heist movie, right? Because he loves movies. Now, I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, though, is very different from some of his other movies. Though it does keep the same vibe, and the characters are still sort of exaggerated with Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth because they are so, you know, Cliff exerts coolness. Rick is this movie actor, sorry, TV star that's just degrading and internal like conflict. And but I watched this video. I want to pull it up because I want to give the person credit of some of the talking points that I'm going to talk about here. Um, So sorry, let me just pull this up a second. So it was made by the Discarded Image, and the video is titled "Once Upon a Time in Hollywood: Tarantino at his most meta," because I think one like this video said it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Tarantino looking at himself and looking at Hollywood, and the first thing that I really like about the movie is the genuine care and detail about the time and era of it. I'm a big historic guy. I love history and especially love that kind of time period. And I love that time period in Hollywood. If you're into movies, you probably like that time period too. And watching interviews with Tarantino about his studying, about going into this film, you can tell that he not only loves that period of time, he loves the actors and the producers, the films, and the era of that time. And the backgrounds he makes for his characters are very elaborate. So I think that was amazing of it. And I think that what a lot of people disliked about the movie was you have these such interesting characters and nothing really happens with them. And I think that's kind of the whole point of the movie, that the movie isn't really about these characters going through a situation, but their whole life is already a situation. And it all centers around Rick Dalton and how Rick Dalton is a TV star and a movie star, and he just lives miserably. Like, you know, he goes to his big house in the Hollywood Hills, and he drinks whiskey sours and, you know, reads his lines after he cried about how nobody recognizes him and he has to go do Italian movies and yada yada yada. And he's going through this internal crisis. He doesn't think he can act anymore. You know, he thinks he's ruined the series and whatnot. And then on the other side, you have Cliff Booth, sorry, I know that sounds weird. I really think Cliff Booth. He lives in a trailer behind a drive-in. You know, he doesn't have the same nice car. He's just a stuntman, but he lives like a movie star. He's driving through the streets super fast. He has the music blaring from the popular hits at the time. And he goes home and, you know, he makes himself mac and cheese. He's has his dog and he's just happy as he can be. He lives like a movie star. He picks up girls off the street, you know. So yeah, so there's this kind of conflict of this yin and yang between these two characters, how they live, and how the Rick always depends on Cliff. And I think that the whole movie is less about a conflict of these characters going through, but Rick's internal conflict of being a leading man and being discarded in his time, and Cliff also kind of handling that and handing the ending of their friendship. And I think we go through a day of their lives in this picturesque, perfect, almost preservation of what Hollywood was in 1967. And then throughout the movie, we have images of Sharon Tate, who is a very, very real person in a movie where it stars two not that real people. And I think that with Rick's End, it's about the internal crisis of dealing with himself and dealing with his emotions. And on Cliff's End, um, he's dealing with external things like I have to fix the antenna tower. I'm have to take this young girl to Spawn Ranch. What's happening at Spawn Ranch? There's these very two parallels of where Rick is in this sort of pretend danger of, losing himself and losing his acting ability in front of all these people, and being in fake danger and losing his lines, just like an actor would be. The stuntman is in real danger when he's faced the Manson family, which he doesn't know at the time is the Manson family. So it's sort of that parallel of actor and stuntman, and those are two very, not real characters in a very real world, which, like I said before, was Sharon Tate, who's a very, very real person. And her presence throughout the film is to show her kindness, her goodness in the world, which obviously makes that a lot more sad for the audience to know that at the end of the movie that Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth don't get to come in and save the day, and that in reality Sharon passed away and died and was murdered by the Manson family in 1969. And that was, I think, her one of the reasons where she's in this movie, where you see this goodness, you see this kindness, you see her revel in the fact that when she's in the movie theater, people laugh at the funny comedy that she was on scene and cheer after she fights in the Wrecking Crew with Dean Martin, and the joy in her eyes, that at the end of the movie, which is why I don't think it's a comedy, which at the end of the movie, after Rick has finally, got that break, got that chance he got because of, the help of Cliff. Because, when you look at that movie, Cliff basically took out all three of the Manson family that attacked. Though you might want to say that, Leo came in and burned the last one, but she was already pretty, the dog had attacked her. He threw a can at her face. He basically killed two, and the other one was fatally wounded. Where he did all the hard work, he did all the heavy lifting, and as he says at the beginning of the movie, he carried the load and got hurt at the end. And then Leonardo comes out, the actor, with the flamethrower and does that money shot. Though that frick, it revels in me every time he comes out and with that flamethrower. It gives me chills every time. I saw that 6 times in theaters, every time, man. Great scene, just great music. So he gets that big shot at the end, and then so I think at the end that's when he kind of realizes that Cliff is more than just a stuntman, and Cliff is more than just his work around the house. That he finally realizes that Cliff is a good friend, and he says that to him, and he finally gets that break and gets into the house and meets Sharon and gives her a big hug. And it says, "Once upon a time in Hollywood," and though you just saw these three Manson people die in the way that's pretty epic, and he has this comedic sort of, Leonardo DiCaprio has this comedic sort of dialogue with Jim Sterling, the makeup artist and ex fiance of Sharon Tate, who is also a very real person. though they have that comedic sort of sense, and you kind of have this happy, like, happily ever after, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You think back to all those happy scenes with Sharon, and you realize, but this is just a movie, and you can see that throughout the entire the film. It's Spawn Ranch. They're on a movie ranch. It's just a movie. When he's doing the western, it's just a western. It's just a TV show. You know, it's film imitating life and life imitating film, and fiction bleeding into reality, and it's super meta. That's why I love it. I think the time period's great. I think the costumes are great. Just by a filming standpoint, it's amazing, and the production design is awesome. The acting of Leonardo DiCaprio is particularly spectacular. He has this list throughout the movie that I didn't even notice until the second or third time I watched it. That is very slight, and it's throughout the whole movie. And I thought it's great to add to his character. One of the best scenes is after Julia Butters, who plays Marabella Lancer, tells Leo that it's the best acting she's ever seen, and he cries. So I guess that's my little tangent about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you want to know why that's my favorite movie, I'm going to be talking about my favorite movies of 2019 later. I'm going to say that of why I enjoyed it. I hate when I say I really like that movie, and I'm obviously a Tarantino fan. I have Tarantino shirts and posters and all of his movies. I hate when people are like, you just liked it because it's a Tarantino film, which I guess is true. I do love his films and whatever, but I generally like that film, not just because Tarantino was attached to it, but because it appeals to me very much so. So it aligns with my aesthetic. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. It's a very good movie to me, and it might not be a good movie to you, but that's why I like it. So if you have a chance, go watch that movie, that video by the Discarded Image. It's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. At its most meta. Go check it out. So I basically just went in a whole rant about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and kind of that wasn't on one of my talking points, but do you want whatever? It's fine. We are here to talk about movies, and that's what we're gonna do. So I need to get back to Golden Globes. So let's see what else we have here. Best Performance of Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. Taron Egerton for Rocketman. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really speak about that. But like I said before, Leonardo was up for that role. I personally think that he should have won. Or Roman Griffin Davis for Jojo Rabbit, which was phenomenal for one of his first acting roles, which I think it might have been his first acting role. But Leonardo DiCaprio, I personally think was great. Loved the movie. Daniel Craig was up for it. I watched Knives Out. I don't think Daniel Craig. Yeah, you didn't win, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, it was alright. He's good. He's really good in it, but I just don't know if it was on par for like winning. Taron Egerton, haven't seen the movie, so I don't know how well he portrays Elton John. Probably really well because he won. So I'm gonna have to see it. I really hope we don't come with this pattern, because I just another little tangent, because last year Rami Malek won for his performance of Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody, which I think that he was amazing, but I think it would be nice to see, because all these music biopics are going to start coming out soon after the success of Bohemian Rhapsody and after the success of Rocketman. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a David Bowie one coming out soon. We have that Netflix one of Motley Crue. I mean, we didn't have a Beatles one. We had that movie Yesterday, but we might have a Beatles one soon. Probably called Abbey Road or something. But yeah, I hope we don't get in this trance where, every year there's this music biopic and that person wins for this performance of this very well-loved musical performer. And not to say that I do not want to take away from Taron Egerton. He's a brilliant actor, and he probably deserves this 100%. Again, I can't say anything. I haven't seen the movie, but he probably wants it. But he probably deserves it 100%. But I think it's much harder. Just again, sorry, I say this again, but I'm not a professional actor. But I feel like it would be a lot harder to take a character like Leonardo DiCaprio did, like Roman Griffin Davis did, and like Daniel Craig did. Eddie Murphy is also on this list, but I'm not gonna. But he's again in the biopic. Take a character and make it an own, and make that character kind of real. Where Taron Egerton had to copy and mimic Elton John, which is also very tough because you have to get that correct. And there's a right way and wrong way of portraying somebody. But I don't know. I guess that's my 2 cents on it. So good job, Taron Egerton. I'm sure Rocketman's great. I still need to see it. I like Elton John. I'm sure I will love it. I liked Bohemian Rhapsody. Eddie Murphy and Dolomite Is My Name. Haven't seen that. I know. I need to see it. But he looked good in it. A story that I don't know. I never knew the Dolomite character before, so I'm happy to now learn about it and learn of the origins from it. And I'm glad Eddie Murphy's kind of making a comeback now. I watched him on SNL recently, which is great. Best performance by an actor in a supporting role, Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Though I'm happy for him and I love him in that movie. He's the coolest guy ever. Al Pacino, I would have liked to see one in The Irishman. He was great in that. But I'll be happy with Brad Pitt. But Al Pacino also did really good too. Joker won Best Original Score. I didn't really listen to the scores of the other movie, but from what I have heard of Joker, it is great. I love Joker. That score of him in the bathroom is amazing. And you can watch that clip on This Is Actually Film, the Instagram. It's also on YouTube if you just want to search it up. I think I'm going to stop there on the Golden Globes because I don't want to go through absolutely everything. But go and check it out. CNET. I don't know this website, but I'm on it right now. CNET posted something yesterday. Nope. Sorry. They posted something today. Just listing every single nomination and everyone who won in each category. So, yep. So go check that out. Those are my kind of thoughts on the Golden Globes. Not a huge fan of it, though I really like it. I watched it. I kind of like half was in it, half in and out, writing some stuff, working on some other things while it was going on. So that's my 2 cents about the Golden Globes. Overall, fun. Ricky Gervais is probably the best part. I loved his opening monologues. He went off the rails, which I thought was awesome. Very entertaining, and it was cool to hear something new out there. I don't know who is hosting the Oscars, who is up to host the Oscars, so it's going to also be interesting because last year they didn't have a host. But I honestly think if they don't have a host, it's fine. I thought last year's Oscars was probably one of the best Oscars because it didn't have a host. And I thought it was cool to have everyone sort of united, just how film should be. But, yep, good job, Golden Globes 2020. You did good. I liked it, though I'm not the hugest fan of Golden Globes, just because after 3 hours of award shows of them just announcing things that you don't know from TV shows and limited series, which is my fault because I haven't seen it, not their fault because they do amazing work. And it's awesome to see all these amazing and talented people who are being awarded on stage for their hard work and dedication for their craft. You can get tiring towards the end. So, yeah, go check this out. Let me know what you think. So, yeah, I'm excited. The Golden Globes always makes me excited for Oscars because I just love the Oscars. I think the Oscars are great. Golden Globes is like, I like it, but I'm just like, could be the Oscars, you know? So congratulations to everyone that won. They all deserve it. There's nothing that I'm upset about, really. There's nothing that I'm up in arms about. So, yeah. Oh, and Joaquin Phoenix won for Best Performance in a Drama. And I think that I haven't seen Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory yet. or Jonathan Pryce in The Two Popes, but I think out of all the nominations, it was between Joaquin Phoenix and Adam Driver, and Joaquin Phoenix took it all the way. Because he is a brilliant actor. Watch him in The Master, and The Master's not one of my favorite movies, but it's one of my favorite performances by Joaquin Phoenix. Woo! Alright, so that was a bunch. You got to hear me talk about. But that is what a podcast is all about. So, next we're just going to talk about a man named Adam Driver. So, I was just thinking to myself, Golden Globe nomination. I was trying to think, man, who had a good year? I think Adam Driver had a really good year for movies. Him and his co-star, Scarlett Johansson, they both had a really good year. Adam Driver, obviously, though he's only in 3 big things. I'm not really too sure what the small stuff, but he was in Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker, which, though whatever your thoughts on that movie are, you can't deny that is a very large movie to be on, and I believe that Adam Driver's character, has the best character arc, and his performance is one of the reasons why that character arc worked really well. So I thought he was dynamite in that. He was dynamite in A Marriage Story, which is another hard-hitting movie that's getting a lot of attention and getting nominations. And then the other thing that he was in The Report, which you may not really heard of it too much. It's not in theaters, I don't believe, but it's on Amazon Prime, and it's a brilliant movie that's big. That was a big role to fill, and he did an excellent job. So I think he had an excellent year for being in movies. He had 3 very hard hitting movies where I watched Marriage Story and The Report back to back, and I was like, wow, this guy is good. And then his co-star, Scarlett Johansson, also had a big year, sort of the same sense of Adam Driver, being in a huge movie, being in Avengers Endgame, which probably was one of the biggest movie events of last decade. Honestly, by being a part of this cinematic universe starting back in 2008 and ending in 2019, she was in that movie, and so I guess mini spoiler alert for that movie, but she was fantastic in that movie. I thought she was one of the most pull out performances when she was talking to Captain America about family and needing this job and crying. It was such a real moment in an Avengers movie, and I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe for people that don't know, and I also love Star Wars. But I love the Cinematic Universe. I love the Endgame, and I thought she was great in it. Then she was in Marriage Story alongside Adam Driver, and she was also phenomenal in that movie. And then she was also in Jojo Rabbit, which stand out to her, man. She was great in that. She was really good. There's a scene where she plays. She's at the dinner table, and I guess mini spoiler because the movie's not out on DVD yet. But there's where she's at the dinner table, and the kid says something about how he wants his dad to be there. So she throws on his dad's jacket and wipes her face with coal to make it look like a beard. And she basically has a whole argument with the kid as the dad, and then has an argument between herself playing the dad who's left for the war, and talking to the kid at the same time. And I thought it was a brilliant scene, and she did really well. So those are the 2 people that I thought had really stand-up performances in 2019, and both had 3 very hard-hitting big movies that they performed well in. So I'm just gonna go Oscar predictions real quick. So some of my Oscar predictions: Best Picture. I took some of these. I looked on the internet for suggestions of what other people were thinking of, and basically took what I agreed with, what I didn't. I added some of my own of what I think. So these are my predictions for the Oscar nominations, which get released on January 13th or 22nd. I'm not sure. I've read some places where it's 22nd and some places where it's the 13th. But I know it's coming up soon. I think but the Oscars are on February 9th. So, Best Picture, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Marriage Story, The Irishman, and Joker. I also put Parasite for Best Picture, but I'm not really sure if it's going to be under the Best Picture nomination or under Best Foreign Language Film. If it's not in Best Picture, it will definitely win Best Foreign Language Film. It won the Golden Globe, and it definitely should have won. It's one of the best movies of 2019. Go watch that movie if you get the chance to. Best Director, Todd Phillips, Joker. Sam Mendes, 1917. Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Martin Scorsese, Irishman. And Bong Joon-ho for Parasite. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name. Best Actor, Leonardo DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Adam Driver, Marriage Story. Joaquin Phoenix, Joker. Antonio Banderas, Pain and Glory. And Taron Egerton, Rocketman. I also took some of these, obviously, from Golden Globes, too, of what I agreed with. Okay, Best Actress. Did I talk about Best Actress for Golden Globes? Oh gosh, I really hope I did. Who won Best Actress for Golden Globe? Oh, Judy did. Or, not Judy. Rena Zellweger for Judy. That's drama. What about musical and comedy? Awkwafina for The Farewell. Okay. I haven't seen either of those movies, so I can't really judge. But I'm sure they're good. I don't have Renée Zellweger down for my Oscar predictions, but maybe I should throw that down there now. Oh no, yes I do. Never mind. Don't listen to me. I'm looking at like 10 lists here. I'm sorry. Okay, where was I? Okay, Best Actress. So Best Actress for Oscars. We're on Oscars right now. So, Best Actress for Oscars. Charlize Theron for Bombshell. Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story. Awkwafina for Farewell. I'm also sorry if I mispronounced any of these names. Cynthia Erivo for Harriet. Saoirse Ronan for Little Women. And Rena Zellweger for Judy. I'm going to hopefully have this list posted somewhere where you can go see my predictions and not hear my horrible pronunciation. Again, I haven't seen some of these movies. Like, I haven't seen Little Women, Harriet, or Judy, or The Farewell. And I know that's 4 of my guest nominations, but this is just from what the Golden Globes have said and what from other people said, from reviews I've seen of these movies. And all of these actresses are phenomenal and amazing in other works too, so I'm not surprised that they're on this list. Anyway, I'm also not surprised of Renée Zellweger won for Judy either. I hear great things about that movie. So, Best Supporting Actor. Brad Pitt, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm going to throw a curveball with this next one, I think, a little bit. This movie hasn't been mentioned too much lately in Golden Globes or for Oscar predictions. But William Dafoe in The Lighthouse is an outstanding and brilliant performance, and I think maybe The Lighthouse should be recognized a little bit more than it is. But, you win some, you lose some, I guess. Al Pacino, Irishman. I didn't put Joe Pesci, Irishman, because I personally believe Al Pacino was like a star in that movie. He was fantastic. I loved his performance of Jimmy Hoffa in that movie. And Joe Pesci was great as usual. He's amazing. But I guess, I don't know, I feel weird putting 2 Irishman actors in the same category. And if I had to choose one, I'd pick Al Pacino, as I personally believe he's the one that deserves to win. But I'll throw in Joe Pesci on there because I believe he's probably going to get nominated. But I think Al Pacino out of the 2 should win. And lastly, for that category, Tom Hanks in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Now we're going to end it off with Best Supporting Actress. Margot Robbie in Bombshell. She is fantastic in that movie. Very strong performance. She had a good year too. between Bombshell and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Margot Robbie had a pretty stellar year, as well. Um, Laura Dern in Marriage Story, she won for Golden Globes, so I suspect she'll be a nomination. Obviously, oh, voice crack there. Obviously, Scarlett Johansson, Jojo Rabbit, as I said before, she also had a standout year, and Jennifer Lopez in Hustlers, which she is great in that movie. I don't think she'll win, especially up against Scarlett Johansson and Laura Dern and Margot Robbie, but she had a great performance in that movie. Sorry if you can hear crackling or drinking. I'm drinking some water right now. So we're gonna move that. We're done with predictions and award shows and all this, and me getting confused of what list I'm looking at and who won what supporting actress role or best actress or best actor or best director. We're done with that, so we're gonna move on now. We're going to move on with the last talking point about film, and then I'm just going to get a little bit about what this podcast hopefully is going to be. 2019 was a good year for movies. One of the best years, I think. I think every year I say is a best year or a good year, but I think this year we had a lot of good stuff. I just have a list here. It's on IMDb of... Oh, my computer messed up for a second. All 2019 and 2020 movies in release order. We're not going to go through all of them because as I scroll down to the end, there is... Oh, there's only like 100. They must have skipped over a few. I mean, how many movies got released in a year? Probably a lot. Over 100. But I'm just going to scroll through it. I guess I'll talk about some of my favorite movies. So, first of all, some of my favorite movies are Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Parasite, Irishman was good, Avengers Endgame. I'm scrolling through now because there's a lot that I saw at the beginning of the year that I totally forget because honestly the beginning of 2019 and the end of 2019 feel like totally different eras because my beginning of 2019 I was spending in an end year of college, and then the end of 2019 I was starting a new semester in college, so it kind of felt kind of weird, and then summer comes along and everything messes up, and you kind of just... What I'm saying is, a year is a long time, and you kind of forget stuff. So I'm scrolling through, and one of the movies that popped out at me that I totally forgot about was Us. Us was released in 2019. It was such a big hype about that movie because... Get Out was so good. And Us is honestly phenomenal. I love the concept of Us. It's one of those movies you can't really focus too much on the detail or else it'll be like, I don't know, it doesn't really make too much sense. But just the pullout of it, I thought it was great. Though I think there was some too much comedy in some areas. And I think that's Jordan Peele's comedy pulling through. But I thought it was a great movie. It's one of those movies that didn't scare me in theaters. But like thinking about it now, it's like, oh, that's a chilling concept. And that's like, a scary sort of concept. And I thought it was a concept that's not really done. And I kind of want to watch it again now. Dumbo, I had the worst theater experience watching Dumbo. Just a kid screaming throughout the whole movie. Best theater experience 2019 was Endgame. Opening night when everyone was cheering. Detective Pikachu was good. I liked it. It was alright. John Wick 3. John Wick 3 is great, though I think it's probably the weakest out of the three, and I hope 4 comes back strong. I really wish they ended on a trilogy than going with a saga. But we'll see how it goes. They really worked it up for the fourth one, so I'm excited to see how that goes. Brightburn was good. I liked Brightburn. Though it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, I still enjoyed it, and it's rated on IMDb as 6 out of 10, which is something I'd agree with. Booksmart, I have to see. I haven't seen it. I'm skipping over some of the ones I've seen, but like Godzilla was alright. Like some of these movies that I see, and you're like, oh, it's good, but it's not like the best. Toy Story 4 was like somewhat sort of disappointing. I feel like this whole podcast is me just saying disappointing stuff about stuff, but like, Toy Story. I guess Toy Story 3 for me, as I grew up with with these movies, was such a perfect ending for how that movie would end, and I felt like Toy Story 4 was like should have been called Toy Story like the epilogue. Just it's just kind of like one of those movies you just want to watch because you're like, oh, let's see what happens after like Breaking Bad, like the El Camino movie is just like, let's see what happens after Breaking Bad. Not really like too much going on, but out of the two, I like El Camino probably more because I like Breaking Bad. But I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying for me, I thought 3 wrapped it up perfectly, and 4 was just sort of an epilogue to it. Spider-Man: Far From Home is probably one of my favorite Marvel movies. It's fantastic. I need to see In the Art of Self-Defense, Farewell, and Crawl. I did not see Lion King because I don't like the live-action ones. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, probably one of my favorites. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's an okay. It's an okay horror movie. It's an okay preteen horror movie. I liked it. I probably won't watch it again anytime soon. Um, I thought there were some weird decisions for being a preteen horror movie and some of they chose for it. And some of the CGI monsters didn't really have the scare effect for me. But then again, I'm not a preteen, so I'm not. So I think it was marketed towards younger people towards me. So if I'm gonna take that look to it, it was absolutely horrifying if I was a young lad in that movie. So yeah, do you want? I'll talk about what I was about to talk about in a minute because and I'll refer back to that. I didn't see The Kitchen. I didn't see everything. Good Boys was like a good feel good movie. Kind of felt like Superbad, and I love Superbad. It Chapter 2, not as good as the first one. The pacing was weird. It just didn't have that same effect on me, man. It just didn't have that whole like I don't know. It Chapter 1. Sorry, I'm just grabbing a drink of my water. It Chapter 1 felt like a horror movie, but sort of like The Goonies and Stand By Me too, because you have all these kids. And I think that's something that I love, those kinds of movies. I love Goonies and I love like Stranger Things because it's this band of like ragtag kids in like summer or like this time in like this like in Stranger Things season 3 it was summer. I think the first season was it was school. They were in school because I remember them talking to the teacher. And the second season was Halloween. But I just love this like idea of like kids going on this adventure and something bad's actually happening. It's not just their imagination. And it's sort of like this brotherhood or like kinship between this group of kids as they try to fight the evil. And it's this scary thing, and I love that. And I think It Chapter 1 had that beautifully done, and It Chapter 2 kind of, though it does lose that because they're all grown up, I felt like they just didn't do a good job transitioning between the two. Um, I though there is like, and I also didn't like the spider thing with it because I watched the limited series. That's like 3 hours long in the movie version, and it obviously doesn't have as much horror because it was a TV show. But like that spider thing, stop motion, was terrifying. Like it's scary. The stop motion is not super scary, but like it is a scary concept, and I was excited to see him turn to like full big spider. And he kind of turned like half spider. I was kind of disappointed. Again, me being disappointed. I know this sucks. I feel bad now, but yeah, it felt odd, but I think overall it was right. Hustlers was great. I loved Hustlers. I loved Ad Astra. I Need to See Judy. I loved Joker. It was amazing. Parasite, one of the best movies. JoJo, amazing. Zombieland 2, amazing for what it is. I really liked it. The Lighthouse, phenomenal. Terminator was a Terminator movie, so I got to see a bunch of robots beat each other up, which is what Terminator is. I love the Terminator franchise, so it was good. It's not going for like Best Picture, and I think it did that pretty well. Ford versus Ferrari was really good. I really liked Ford versus Ferrari. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood was amazing. Knives Out, phenomenal. And now we're at Star Wars. But I think two other movies that were great this year: Bad Education and Honey Boy. Now, if you don't know what Bad Education is, that's okay. It has not been released on wide anything. I was actually very lucky to see that movie because I got premiere tickets to see that movie at TIFF. So I got to see that at the premiere with all the actors being there and the director and writer, and I got to hear them have a speech afterwards. And I watched that movie and I was like, wow, this is really good. I really like it. It's not. I don't think it's like blow your socks off amazing some of these other movies I'm talking about, like Marriage Story, but it's still really good. It stars Hugh Jackman. It's from a first time director. For his first time, it's a very interesting, intriguing story, which I really liked, and I thought it was great. I didn't get to see Hugh Jackman though; he wasn't there. And I watched it at TIFF, and it was a premiere. And I left the theater. I was like, wow, that's really good. I wonder when it's going to be released. So I searched out everything, and it was like premiered at TIFF, whatever, 2019. I was like, okay. And it just never released to theaters until HBO bought it. So HBO's bought it, and they announced that they're releasing it on like HBO and HBO Now and Crave in the year 2020. So I'm really lucky I was able to see that movie back in September, because for everyone else, they're not going to be able to see it for, I don't know, I guess it might be up now. I don't know exactly when it's going to get released on the streaming service, but I don't think it's going to I don't know if it's going to get a wide theater release. And Honey Boy was an Amazon Prime. I got a premiere at that too. I got to see Shia LaBeouf and stuff, and Lucas Hedges, and Noah Juby, and that was pretty cool. And Honey Boy is probably one of my favorite films of 2019 too. It was an amazing experience to go and see that movie at TIFF, and it was also such a phenomenal movie to see. So I guess those are some of my 2019 movies. I also like Star Wars. We'll talk about that later because I know it's a very hot sort of topic about whether or not the new Star Wars is good. I've had many discussions with people that I know about it, but we'll move on. And do you know what I love about film and having all these discussions with people and having my opinion here is that everyone has their own opinion about film, and it's never wrong. To a degree, I guess. I guess. But I like to think that your opinion is never really wrong because film is what you like. It's subjective. I think you can look at stuff objectively too. I like to look at movies objectively as of the technical stuff of cinematography, editing, plot, and story. Of those elements, and you can say this is a really good movie, but I don't really like it, or you can say this is not that good of a movie. I think it's a bad movie. I know it's bad, but I really like it, and that's okay because there's a lot of movies that I know are not that good and are not well loved by critics, but I watch it and I will have a blast watching it, and I love it. And I think that's the best thing about movies is that you can watch a movie and you come out and you can have your own experience, you can have your own opinions about it, and that's why I love it. And that's why how I wanted to make this podcast, to talk about my opinions on film, about film related topics, and about film related items. So that's why I want to do it. I love everything to do with film. I love talking about film. When I talk to film about people, I feel like everyone... Well, okay, sorry, I take that back. I don't feel like everyone. I feel like some people may, when you're talking to someone and, you're like, they're like, oh, I love this movie, and you're like, oh, I didn't. You kind of feel bad because you don't want to take them down. But I feel like when you talk about movies, you should be able to just to say, this is what I thought, because your experience shouldn't take away from someone else's experience. So what I'm trying to say is everyone has their own opinions on film, and I love talking about different opinions on film and having an open mind about it. So that's why I wanted to create this. So, yeah. Thank you for bearing with me through that wonderful rant. It is getting late. So we're going to wrap this up now. I'm going to talk about a little bit about what I want this podcast, what I hope this podcast would be. And a few more things. Nothing too crazy. I promise I won't go any more rants about what what person won what movie I liked in 2019, why Once Upon a Time, blah blah blah. So what I hope this podcast will be is I hope this podcast will be monthly. That is my start goal, is to have to record a podcast once a month. I wouldn't pre-record. I would record and try to upload as soon as I can to keep the relevance alive and keep dating alive. Like I said in this episode, that the Golden Globes was yesterday or 2 days ago, and if I upload this in a week from now, that would be misinformation. So I upload this, and by the time that this recording is ending, I believe this will be up when the Golden Globes are 2 days ago, just because uploading and editing and exporting can be slow when you're working with an hour long audio file and video file. So enough of that. So what I hope this to be is I hope this to be a monthly thing. So I hope by the end of the year that there's going to be 12. Right now, this recording might not sound the best. I'm not in a professional studio. I'm not in anything like that. I'm recording off a Zoom microphone, which is very good. I really like it, but obviously it's not the best for podcast recording. If in a couple of months I am serious about this and I like it, I'm going to try to invest in a better microphone and a better equipment and see how it goes. So I guess that's my goals. So yeah, so I hope this podcast becomes a once a month thing. So by the end of the year I have 12, and then along the year I'll assess how this is going. I'm going to assume I'm not going to have a very big audience at the beginning, or I'm not even expecting a big audience at all. This is basically more for I guess friends or whatever, or anyone out there who actually cares about my opinion on film. So I hope you like it. I really like it. I like the idea of this. It's something that I've always wanted to do. I've always loved podcasts. As growing up, I always listened and watched the Rooster Teeth podcast. And then I always I'm going to make a podcast one day, but I need people because, the Rooster Teeth people always have people with them. Joe Rogan always has people with him. The Misfits always have people with them. And then at one point I was just like, I'm just going to do it on my own and we'll see where it goes. And I actually made a test podcast in the summer that I wasn't too fond about, because I didn't talk solely about film. I was kind of just random all over the place. I know this is a lot of detail that you probably don't care about. But, so, anyway, I decided make this podcast once a month. That's my goal. Other goals I have for this podcast is to have hopefully a guest on. A guest being someone that I know. I'm in school right now for film. So I know a lot of people who are into film like me and have different opinions and outlooks on films, and have different expertise at different genres and different aspects of film. So I would like to hear their opinions too. So I want to have guests on, and each episode this episode obviously was very heavy based in the Golden Globes and the Oscars. Unfortunately, next episode in February will also be probably very heavily talked about the Oscars, but I'd also probably try to pick in another fun topic in there too. So every month I'll have talking points, like I said before in the beginning, of different things that I want to discuss about film. Anything that I just think is interesting about film. It could be relevant in the current time. It could not be. It's just something that I'm currently interested in about film. It could be samurai movies. It could be westerns. It could be conspiracy theories of films and Stanley Kubrick and the Moon and film like that. So that's how I'm gonna probably structure it. So I have just talking points, and I might go on a tangent here and there. So that's my goals, and then have guests on, hopefully one or two, for one or two episodes. And then if like I said, if I think this is getting like somewhere and I'm liking this, and by the end of the year I'm like, this is something I want to pursue more, then I will invest in better equipment and maybe work harder at it. Not that I'm saying I'm not working harder now. It's just I'm very busy with school, and I'm trying my best. The next thing I want to talk about was, I know a little while ago I kind of trailed off and murmured and muttered about something when I was talking about scary stories to tell in the dark. And that was because I was about to go off a tangent about reviewing about weird stuff that I saw in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and weird choices I thought. And hey, though that's a place that's something I can talk about on this podcast, it's not something I want to just review films on this podcast. But instead, I'm hopefully going to be releasing a website soon. It's just a free Wix site, but I'm in the works of it right now. It's just a website where I review movies and TV shows. There's not too many reviews up there right now. I'm working away at it. And I'm hopefully for that to come up in like a week or two. Hopefully by next month. I want to work at it. That's also a big goal I have this year, is to launch that website and have a good amount of movies on there and just have reviews on them. They're written reviews. They have a score. They tell you what I watched the movie on, the director or the creator, and basically my opinions about the film. So that's what I was talking about. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is that eventually there will probably be a review on the website, though there's a back catalog of movies that I have watched that I need to review, and a back catalog of movies that I need to watch as well, as I like to watch movies as much as I possibly can, and TV shows. So those are the two big announcements, I guess, I have, is that, what I want this to be and the website. So, that's it for me. I hope everyone enjoyed this, every few people that are listening. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I'm glad that I'm able to do it. And I'm very thankful and grateful that I'm able to do this, and I'm able to pursue something that I love in this world. So I thank you for listening, if you've listened this far. So I thank you so much for coming along this journey with me, and I hope that you listen to me next month, and that and that you hear from me, because this is something that I want to continue with, and I hope that I don't drop it. So yeah, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. You are amazing, and you can do whatever you put your mind to. So spread some kindness in the world. I feel like we need it in this new decade. So spread some kindness, spread some happiness, watch some movies, and I will see you all next month.